Welcome to another edition of Buc What You Heard. My name is Gene. You can reach me at Super Heavyweight. You follow me, I'll follow you back. And here we are. We're on the cusp of starting this season off to see what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to do. And tonight I'm joined with my co-host, Michael Pless, one of the writers over at realbucstalk.com. Please if you get over and get a chance to check it out. I love that site. A lot of great information. I know there are a lot of places that you can go for Buccaneers information, but you really need to make realbucstalk.com one of your spots. Michael, how you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing great. I mean, football's in the air and just pumped up for the season to get started tomorrow. I mean, it's awesome. You know, we finally have a Bucs game after, I don't know, it seems like it's been forever. So it's gonna be great and really pumped up. I mean, team's looking really strong right now.
Yeah. And you know, that's really exciting. I mean, there's this season's special. And you know, I'm not saying that because that's what you're hearing in the media, but when you think about where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were maybe 3 years ago, and I know for a lot of people it's in your rear view mirror, but it's something that I always bring up because it makes me appreciate where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are right now. I remember I used to do a podcast with with some NFC South guys from Atlanta, from Carolina, and from the Saints, excuse me. And the one thing that that I always struggled with was Tampa was always at the bottom. But you know, we got on there. I talked about the Bucs. You know, you try to prop them up as much as you can. And you know, it just thinking back to that and where we are now, it really makes me appreciate, you know, what this organization has done and how they've turned everything around and put the Bucs in a position to win. Now it kind of is based on what the team is going to do. How are they going to make things work? So I'm really excited about this season. What about you?
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, the team is it's just got the right mindset right now. I mean, everything is looking like everything's going in the right direction for the first time in a long time. You know, we finally have the pieces in place on offense and defense. You got a coaching staff that is coming back, you know, which we haven't been able to say in a long time. You know, we finally have coaching stability on both sides of the ball, which is awesome to see. And then also you got pretty much the same starters from last year returning, and you've also upgraded. I think it's 8 starters that have upgraded as far as new players. So you know, that's impressive. Just the way Jason Light has been able to draft consistently and build this team from the bottom, especially coming off a 2-14 season in 2014, and now you had your first winning season since 2010. Team's looking strong to make a playoff run this year, and that's what you can ask for as far as fans.
Yeah, and you know, for the fans that are saying, you know, wait, I don't know, why not the Bucs? I mean, you look at in the past 2 years. I'm going to give you these last 2 years as an example. You had the Carolina Panthers, a team that had been consistently going to the playoffs. Nobody saw them being a one-win team. I mean, a one-loss team. The year they went to the playoffs or to the Super Bowl. The next year, the Atlanta Falcons, and nobody, especially their fans, thought they would go as far as they did or dominate the way they did. So I feel like Tampa has put themselves in a position to do some big things. We have the quarterback. I think we have the receiver core. And, you know, on the other side of the ball, you have the defense. And I think they've improved a lot. And people are starting to take notice. And, you know, throughout camp, I mean, unfortunately, I haven't been able to go to camp because, you know, I'm so far away. But everything I've been reading, everything I've been seeing, and, you know, just talking to different people that are actually at camp, it's encouraging, especially considering, you know, the home win-loss percentage that you saw with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think this is going to draw a lot of fans to these games, and that's what Tampa really needs. And you know, when you talk about fans and what they've been doing, what did you think about the stick carriers and what they did last Saturday? I told these guys I was not going to forget this, and you know, I'm going to be upfront. I didn't know what the whole stick carrier movement was, but I tell you what, after what they did on last Saturday, and just listening to you know, Bucs Uncensored, and you know, just kind of getting an idea. I mean, this is incredible, and anything that can unite fans is what I'm excited about. Not this fan base is better than this fan base, or you're not diehard, but something that will unite the fan base. Case in point, the 12th man. I know they've only been around since 2012, but what they've come up with is it's incredible. You know, they are united, and that's what I would love to see here in Tampa is a united front. No matter who you're with, whether it's Buckaholics, What the Buck, stick carriers, stick people, it doesn't matter. Whoever you're with, if you're a Bucs fan, that's what it should be about, is wins and losses.
Yep. No, you're absolutely right. I thought it was awesome. I mean, it's time for this fan base to support this team and get behind them and become as one. You know, and when we go into Raymond James, it's our job to make it a tough environment for opposing teams to come in and play. You know, we have to be loud. We have to be the guys that the fans that lead the charge and help this team, you know, win the game, because they play better when they have fans, you know, screaming their heads off and supporting this team and making sure, you know, we're making it difficult for the opposing team. I mean, it's more atmosphere when you have, you know, over 60,000 people, you know, cheering you on, especially when you're going, you know, you're playing in a hot field and you got all these things going on, and you know, you need that extra energy to pull through, and it just helps when you have a vibrant crowd, you know, out there making noise throughout the game. And what the stick carriers have done and what Bucs fans are doing now is just believing in this team, coming together as one, and understanding that, you know, we need to stop fans coming into our stadium and taking over pretty much, because it happened too often over the last few years. And it's time we change that and we take over our stadium and make it tough for any fan to, whether it's go to the game or, you know, cheer their team on. Pretty much we need to be the noise throughout the season and help Raymond James become that dominant home field advantage again. And that's what I think we're going to do this season. And so credit to everyone. I mean,
yeah, absolutely, man. And I tell you what, you know, when you hear comments like the stick carriers were so loud that people were thinking that they had piped in music or piped in crowd noise like they do in Atlanta. No, this was the real deal. This was the stick carriers, and I'm excited to see what they're going to do, where they're going to take this, because I mean, I saw pictures of the draft party, and just think about this. This movement just started in the offseason. As Justin Pulowski had mentioned, this movement started in the offseason, and what they've done, you know, in just a short period of time is nothing short of amazing. And I hope they can just keep this going. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, absolutely. And you know, that's the goal, to get, you know, every section in Raymond James, you know, as loud and vibrant as possible, and just be loud and pretty much crazy throughout the whole game. You know, stand and cheer this team on and help them, you know, get that victory. I mean, that's what it's all about. And those guys on Saturday, I mean, the players noticed it right away, and they were playing better because of that noise and because of that energy. They brought it on the field, and that's what this team needs. And if the team can hear us being loud, you know, going into that, you know, starting the game, you know, just the energy from the start is going to be that much better. It's going to help this team get off to better starts and be a better home team. And that's what this team has to do to make the playoffs. We have to start winning, you know, 6 out of 8, 7 out of 8 games, even 8, you know, all home games. You know, it's very important to win your home games.
Yeah, most definitely. I think in thinking about this, you
So
look at, I mentioned this earlier, but we had years and years of woes where the Bucs would
mm,
just lose. And I
mhm,
always come to a home game, at least one or two when I can. And it seemed like every time I came, the Bucs were just like, they would have the lead going in the fourth quarter and blow it. And
mm,
it's good to see, and I've talked about this, a couple of weeks ago. It's good to see the defense getting the opposing offense off the field. That
mm,
is important to me.
mhm.
That is what really helps, this team get going and get the offense the opportunity to score. So I'm super excited about this.
Yeah.
So I want to kind of switch gears a little bit because I know this is something that everybody's talking about, and I definitely want to chime in. Hard Knocks,
Mm,
and folks, you know me. I've never been, because remember last year with the rumors of Hard Knocks, I was like, no, it's a distraction. But
yeah.
this year, it's giving America a chance to see the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and who the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are and what a classy organization the Tampa Bay Buccaneers has. It's very. I was actually proud when you look at the facility and the way that they showed Hard Knocks. You see Dirk Cutter, you see Jason Light, you see the building, and I know I guess I'm biased, but I love what I love. I love the facility. I love
Mhm.
the stadium, and I always have. I've gone to a few Cardinals games, and I'm like, whatever. If you paid that much for this stadium, go get your change back or whatever, because it's not Ray J. And
Mm,
that's
yeah.
kind of how I feel. When I go, I sit by the cannons because I
Mhm,
love it when the cannons fire. So that's just one of my things that I really appreciate about this team.
mhm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I thought the episode was just it was outstanding. It got me motivated. I mean, I was having chills after the episode because I was so excited about where this team is heading, not only this season, but seasons beyond. As far as just what we have in place, I mean, this team is going to be a consistent winner starting this season, and that just gets me excited because it's a start of another run for this team, like it was in the mid '90s to early 2000s, and um, that's the ultimate goal, and that's the what you want as far as a fan goes. But yeah, the episode was just outstanding. I thought it started off with Dirk Cutter, doing his team speech and saying, "Hey, we have to start fast this season because once we get going, we can't go back. We can't change course. Once the rocket is set, it's on its sail." So, um,
What stood out to me, on that scene that you're talking about? Every single
mhm.
person was engaged.
Yeah,
Everybody
everyone was
was
locked
paying
in.
attention.
Yeah.
Everybody was looking
Yep.
at what he was talking about because they've bought into what he's talking about.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I noticed that too. Everyone was locked into his eyes and his words. I mean, they were pretty much zoned in, and they understand. We have to do this. It's on us. We have to start fast. We can't have 1 and 3 starts like we've had the past couple years.
Right.
So I thought that was really good, and just the whole message of earn it. We have to go out there and earn it. I think that speaks volumes, especially just the publicity that this team has gotten, all the expectations, the hype. We still have to go out there and earn what we're going to be, what we're given. We have to earn it.
Absolutely. And one
Hmm.
thing I was watching, I was kind of flipping through the preseason games, and I was watching the Patriots. And the running back, I can't think of the running back's name. He's been in the league for like 6 seasons, but they were interviewing him, and he said the one thing that stuck out to about the New England Patriots is none of these positions are guaranteed. They want the best player on the
Right.
field, and you know who that reminded me of? Tampa. That's
Hmm.
that's kind of where Tampa is right now, where you've got competition in certain positions where if this was any other team, it would just be handed to the guy that was there last year. But nothing's guaranteed, and that makes me feel really comfortable too, knowing that you're going to see the best players on the field. You're not going to see his guy or his guy on the field. Like,
Mhm.
you know, and not to bash Lovey, but that's kind of what you saw sometimes. You saw him, okay, you're going to be our starter. You're that guy. And, you know,
Mhm.
it wasn't they earned the position, but they were just kind of handed it to him. So what I'm seeing here with a lot of competition, you know, case in point, the kicker position last year that Brian Anger won out. It's important to say that he competed and won that position, and it benefited the Bucs, as you can see, you know, from last year. So that's something that I've kind of looked at with Jason Light, and I'm really excited about too, is all the competition that you're seeing on the field.
Yeah, I mean that's what it's about. I mean, competition makes everyone better. Um, you know, I mean, there's competition at so many positions. You know, just look at the safety position, the battles that are going on there daily. I mean, that is going to make everyone better across the board. Um, you know, consistent battles at running back. I mean, those guys are stepping up their game. The kicker battle with Nick Folk and Aguayo is like neck and neck. I mean, those guys are going back at it pretty much every day, whether they have a bad day or good day. Um, they eat the right stuff for breakfast, so they make their kicks. You know, like Cutter said. Um, so I mean, yeah, I mean, competition and brings out the best in every player, and that's what you know this team has, and you're going to get the best guys on the field, like you said, and that's what's most important.
You know, and to me, one of the people in the chat, in the live chat, said, just took the words right out of my mouth. Seeing Keith Tandy on the field, showing what he can do, getting an opportunity to start and make this
Mhm.
team better. That's what Tampa's been missing for so long. And you know,
Mhm.
I know it. I know a lot of it is the talent, the level of talent they've had, but
Mhm.
over the past seasons, I've always said, why isn't Tandy getting a chance to compete for a starting position? He does
Mhm.
good. He looks good in camp. He looks good against the seconds, and when they've kind of rotated him in with the first team players during the preseason games, he's looked good. And I've always
Mhm.
wondered, why isn't this guy getting a chance to start? But he shows his professionalism by, you know, hanging in there, working at his craft, getting better, and then when he gets the opportunity to start, he takes advantage of it. That's
Mhm.
kind of what you didn't see with the wide receivers. Again, I talked about the drop off, but all these opportunities that present themselves, it's important for these players to get out and make the most of their opportunities. And that's what we saw with Keith Tandy, was getting that opportunity to start, and he's made the most of it. And based on his mindset and everything that I've seen from him, it doesn't look like he's trying to give that up at any time.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. So far he's kind of had a quiet camp so far. Hasn't made a lot of plays, but I mean, he's going to be a guy to watch for tomorrow night. Just see if he brings that, you know, playmaking ability that he had, you know, the last 5 games of last season. That whole safety position will be something to watch. Justin Evans and see where he's at. JJ Wilcox, see if he can make any plays. But yeah, I mean, it speaks to Keith Tandy and his professionalism, like you said. I mean, just his ability to hang in there and keep grinding and get better each year. Just shows testament to how much he cares about this game and cares about his team. So, um, yeah, I
I,
mean,
and I
perfect
think, you
example.
know, it kind of goes back to the culture again. The culture of this team is like night and day.
Mhm.
You can go back to 2011,
Yeah,
2012,
yeah,
and you compare that to where the Bucs are now. You're looking at two different organizations, to be
yeah,
very honest. And what?
absolutely.
And go ahead, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I mean, guys from previous rosters, you had too many guys just loafing around, guys that were just earning a paycheck, pretty
Daquan
much mailing,
Bowers.
yeah, mailing in games. Um, and you had guys who were starters but didn't really deserve to be on the field, and that was the main issue. There wasn't anybody pushing those guys, whether it be draft picks. They would just be handed starting positions, and that just can't happen. You can't have guys just being handed starting jobs in this league. You got to have guys that will push them to make them better, and if they do win the starting job, great, but that consistent push in this game, especially just to have that motivation. Because if you don't, I mean, it's not going to be there because these guys make too much money to, consistently go out there and play like they should.
Yeah. And I think this started with Jameis. And, maybe I'm wrong, but I didn't see people that were like, we're going to win. I'm going to get better. We're going to make this organization better. We're going to do what, and then not just saying it, but actually going out and doing it and continually improving and honing their craft. And that kind of thing gets contagious, where you saw Jameis Winston, who's the constant guy looking at film, wanting to know where he made mistakes, where he can correct those mistakes so he's not doing it again. And you see it kind of bleed over to Quan Alexander, who said, you know what? I want to be in the film room. I want to be looking at stuff. I want to get where Jameis is. I want to get better. I want to be the best at what I do. And you hear the tweets. You saw the tweets from him and how he was kind of disregarded as one of the premier linebackers. I think he's got a lot to prove, and I expect him to have a good season this season as well.
Yeah, I'm excited to see him tomorrow, see what he does, as far as maybe bringing the pressure on Andy Dalton, get a couple sacks, who knows. But yeah, so it's going to be interesting to watch him. I want to see him fly around. Him and Levante David, who I don't think gets talked about enough, just because Quan kind of has taken that spotlight. But Levante David is still a very good football player. Those two guys together is quite the duo. And yeah, so I'm excited to see them, see how.
Let me ask you a question, because we're talking about Levante David, and we're talking about our linebacker core. When Mason Foster was here, did you feel like, because of his deficiencies, athleticism, that it made it possible for Levante David to make more plays? And then when you bring in a Quan Alexander, who is athletic as all get out, he's able to make plays, and so it kind of balanced out the linebacker core, so to speak. Do you agree with that, or am I off on what I saw?
No, I think that's fair. I think what they did with Mason Foster was kind of use him more of a guy to take on blockers to free up Levante David. And Levante David does the same thing now for Quan Alexander, just because Quan is so fast and his ability to make plays on the backfield. They find ways to open up Alexander more. And if that means David's got to take on 2 or 3 blockers to free him up, then he's going to do it.
Right.
And again, these guys are interchangeable, like Mike Smith said this past Monday. Guys, they can both play Mike or Will linebacker. At times, you'll have Alexander in the Will position, which allows him to make more plays from that spot. You'll have David as the Mike, playing more of the strong side slot. So he's got to take on more blockers. He's got to take on the tight end, the defensive end at times. And I think what you're going to see this year, especially since he did it last season and did quite well, they're going to have him blitz off the edge more and create more pass rushing opportunities for David, because he's really good blitzer. I mean, he knows how to get after the quarterback. So I'm in that role more, where they send him in more and let him go after the quarterback and make plays. So that's exciting. I mean, that's going to make our pass rush that much better.
Absolutely. And, when you get pressure on the quarterback, it alleviates pressure on your linebacker, your safeties, and your cornerbacks. It's going to help everybody, as long as you're getting pressure on that quarterback, and he's got to get the ball out faster. Nobody has to cover longer. So, again, that's something, this defense, I'm really excited to see what they're actually going to do, what Mike Smith is going to do with this team. And you know what? There's no learning curve. These guys already know what's required of them. They can come in and do what they do. And we've seen a lot of that. I think I've heard about more defensive plays than I have offensive plays. But when you have weapons like Mike Evans and Deshaun Jackson, it really, iron sharpens iron. It's going to make this secondary better, and they'll be able to deal with your Kelvin Benjamins and your some of your other wide receivers in the NFC South.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just look at the growth that that Vernon Hargreaves has made this offseason. I mean, he continues to make plays every day. He's getting better, and for him to be able to go up against Deshaun Jackson every day, that's going to make him better against speed receivers. I mean, just learning tendencies to cover Deshaun. I mean, Deshaun still beats him because he's just that damn fast, but it's going to make Hargraves that much better in understanding how to play different types of wide receivers. I mean, you go up against Mike Evans, you gotta bear down and be a little more physical, and then when you go up against Deshaun, it's like a speeding rocket coming at you, 120 miles per hour. So,
and the guy that's continually improving is Mike Evans. I remember it was just a couple of seasons ago. Everybody was jumping out the window because Mike Evans was dropping balls, but I think he caught like 1,200 yards plus that year, didn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he's been over 1,000
yards. Left a lot of yards on the field. My point is, how 31 other teams would kill to have a Mike Evans on their team? And I don't know, have you watched? There's this article that they do every year of redoing the draft, and I think, what did they have Mike Evans like number 3? Sammy Watkins was like at number 19 or something like that.
Makes sense.
But they had Mike Evans over Odell Beckham Jr. But it kind of makes sense. I mean, and I think I've explained this before. When you look at the amount of time that that Mike Evans has been playing football, period, it's incredible to see where he is right now. And his upside is he hasn't even scratched the surface on his upside. So just watching him improve game after game after game, season after season, it's incredible. And watching him improve with Jameis Winston is really exciting to me.
Yeah, I mean, and on Hard Knocks, I mean, he looked outstanding. I mean, they showed the highlights of him just making play after play. I thought it was great when Todd Monken, he's like, just kill him on that stop and go route, and he's like,
oh my God, that was crazy.
Winner chicken dinner with a exclamation of the little F-bomb in there. But I mean, it was just awesome to see. I mean, just the way he's come so far. I mean, I think he only played 3 seasons combined of high school and college football, and now he's a professional NFL receiver and one of the best at it. Is saying quite something. So, and he's just going to continue to get better, like you said. He's still learning how to use his body and run routes precisely. And I think a big emphasis this year, he wants to get more yards after the catch, which I think will be able to be possible because he's not going to see as many double teams. He's going to see more single one-on-one matchups, which
that's scary.
I mean, yeah,
that's scary.
I mean, sky's the limit. And people criticize him for the drops in 2015, but you got to look at all the targets he's had throughout his first 3 targets out of anyone in the NFL. In his first 3 years. I don't know how to look that up, but I think that's probably accurate. He's had so many targets. He had the most targets last season. If that number to continue to rise.
Eventually, and again, eventually people will be saying this guy's an elite receiver. He continues to get better, and he's making crazy catches now, and he's somebody that I'm looking forward to, and I'm just so happy to have Deshaun Jackson on the other side of the ball. That's going to definitely alleviate pressure off of him. Adam Humphries, with the year experience that he's had on the opposite side of Mike Evans, is only going to make him better. And then we haven't even talked about Cameron Brate or, the rookie OJ Howard. So again, Chris Godwin. Here we go. It's kind of crazy when you're thinking of guys and you're like, oh, I thought about him, and him. Oh, I forgot about him. That that's something right there. So fans, this is going to be exciting. If you can get out to a game, I highly suggest it this year.
Yeah, I mean, it's a credit to what Jason Light has done. I mean, And when we talked about earlier about, past rosters, not having the competition, it really just goes to the general manager and the talent that they're able to bring in. And Jason Light has been able to hit on talent. He's been able to hit on the drafts. And when you're able to hit on the drafts, that makes your whole team that much better, because that is the core of your team. And when you have young stars like you do on this team, and Jameis Winston, Mike Evans, you got a O.J. Howard, a Chris Godwin, all under 25 years old. Then you have an offensive line that is still young. You just have pieces in place. And then you go on the defensive side of the ball, you have a Noah Spence, Vernon Hargraves, Gerald McCoy still in his prime years, Levante David, Quan Alexander, guys like that are under the age, of 30, but still on their rise. I mean, young players. That's what it's about. Jason Light building this team and hitting on drafts, because that's where it's at.
Yeah, and we haven't even talked about the late round picks. That's what excites me right there. We're not you know what you're pretty much getting with your first, second, and possibly third round picks. But when you can hit on these late round picks, and you've got late round picks, first and second year, they're contributing to the team towards wins. That's exciting. That really is. I mean, we haven't had
and it goes.
Go ahead.
And it goes back. Yeah, it goes back to development as well. This coaching staff developing these players. Getting a guy like Adam Humphries, who was a tryout player, he ends up making the roster out of training camp. In preseason, and that's just a great story. But then they continue to develop his game, and he's gotten better each year. He's found ways to enhance his route running. He's probably has the best hands on the team, which is saying something. I mean, the guy never drops a pass. I mean, if he does, then it's very rare. And then Cameron Brate, same thing, developing him, getting him better. He's improved. I think you're going to. Yeah, exactly. And I think you're going to see him improve his blocking this year. He's really emphasized it during the offseason. Who is off other team. They pick him up. Javian Elliott. We haven't even talked about Javian Elliott. I mean, that guy's a great story. Walk-on player at FSU, comes into the Bucs, and ends up being a starting nickel, towards the end of the year. I mean, it's just crazy.
Yeah, it's just hard work. And these guys aren't handed these positions. They earn these positions. And that's what I think every GM needs to be doing that. You need to put your ego aside. If you draft somebody, they don't make it, they don't turn out like you expect them to, okay, get your best guy on the field, because wins and losses mean you last a little bit longer in this league. Because you may have missed on a draft pick, but hey, come on, we need to move on. We need to get the best players on the field. And I think that's bigger than all of it.
Yeah, and it's about correcting your mistakes. I mean, going out there. I mean, you look at ASJ and Kenny Bell didn't work out. So what does Jason Light do? He goes out and gets OJ Howard and Chris Godwin. So there you go. Yeah. I mean, he upgrades.
And when you talk about upgrading, let's go back to the beginning of Jason Light's tenure here. Other than the first year where we had some kind of disastrous moves, after that it kind of leveled out, and Jason Light's been able to upgrade on every position that he's changed out a player. I don't know. Can you tell me of a position that he hasn't upgraded on? Or, I was even looking at the whole Bradley McDougald going out into free agency and then getting JJ Wilcox. Statistically, when you looked at the two statistic-wise, it looked like a kind of a wash. But, I mean, you never know. I mean, maybe Dallas wasn't using JJ right. Maybe he's a better fit in a Mike Smith defense, and this is the guy that you would need to help the secondary.
Yeah, I think the best thing that Jason Light has done is just been able to improve himself every year. I mean, he's gotten better as far as understanding what the team needs are, understanding what the team's weaknesses are, and understanding that, hey, we need to go out and improve these areas. And he's done that every year. He's gotten better at it as far as addressing team needs, addressing, what our strengths and weaknesses are, and understanding how to enhance those. 2014, that was his first year as general manager. He was under Lovie Smith, who had most of the control, and it just didn't work out. Those two guys didn't see eye to eye, and you had pretty much a bad offseason that year. But he learned from it. 2015, he changed his approach to free agency, got key solid depth players, even picked up Chris Conte, who's still here. But then it all comes down to the draft. I mean, he really hit on the draft. I mean, that 2015 draft, it will probably go down as one of the better drafts in Buccaneer history. And then 2016, 2017, he's just had steady off seasons where it's not splash moves. He just picks up solid guys that can come in and play right away, like a Robert Ayers, Brent Grimes, and now you get a Deshaun Jackson and Chris Baker. Those are solid moves right there.
Yeah. And again, you look at who they replaced, and you're like, wow, this is incredible. And I think what really caught my attention was the 2015 season. The secondary was atrocious. And I mean, I couldn't figure out what they were doing, and they would always, it was frustrating for me. I actually drank more. Like I thought I was back in the early 90s or something. But to get to my point here, what I was seeing was this secondary, and I was like, there is no way to improve this secondary over a season, over an off season. But by drafting a Vernon Hargraves and then bringing in a Brent Grimes, they stabilized that secondary. I mean, they weren't world beaters, but I'll tell you what, I would take them over what we had been seeing in this, in the cornerback position. So to me, I think it was just a matter of getting the right people back there and giving them a chance to make mistakes and, get comfortable and do what they do. And you look at what you have right now. I know the Bucs are still a little bit thin in the cornerback position, but it's better than what it was in 2015. So they're continually improving,
Yeah, definitely. And it just goes back to just having that, like I said earlier in the show, it's stability on both sides with the coaches. Having same coaching staff, having same position coaches makes a big difference. And now you have those guys coming back in year two of the defense, and they're just going to understand what they need to do that much better. But yeah, you're right. I mean, getting a Vernon Hargraves, a Brent Grimes, and that's what I was talking about as far as improving his weaknesses, with his team as far as Jason Light goes. Secondary was a big issue in 2015. He goes out in 2016. He rectifies the issue. And then in 2017 offseason, our weakness was stopping the run, up the middle. So he goes out and get a Chris Baker. He gets more size up front. We didn't have explosive plays. I mean, we just couldn't move the ball down the field in big plays. So he goes out and gets the best receiver, the most explosive receiver available in Deshaun Jackson, who has the most catches over 50 yards in the NFL. So, I mean, you get an O.J. Howard. I mean, that's fixing your issues right there. I mean, he got stronger, faster, and bigger. And those were the biggest issues. Offensive line, the center position, changing Ali Marpet to center. I mean, that's gonna help our offensive line so much. I mean, people don't understand how good that is gonna make our offensive line.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, that is attributed to Jason Light, and a lot of the players that you talk about are multifaceted, where they can play different positions, especially on the offensive line, like your Caleb Benenoch, guys like Kevin Pamphile. These are Jason Light guys. These are guys that have it from the neck up. And, that I say that a lot, but I think that's very important in the NFL, because I've seen a lot of people like Austin Seferian-Jenkins, who had the physical tools to dominate in the NFL, but he didn't have it from here up. And that really hurt him. He just couldn't get out of his own way. So just the fact that, Tampa is doing what they're doing in this manner, fans should be excited. You gotta almost be all in on this. So I don't know. I I know we've kind of gone on to talk about the roster again. I want to touch on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the Cincinnati Bengals. And you know what you've got with your first string players. I want to talk about second and third string players. I know some guys may want to talk about this, but these are guys, keep in mind, folks, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers do not get a bye until the 11th week of the season. That is huge. All the pounding that they're going to take, all the hits and, so on and so forth going up to that point, it's important to have depth, the best players in depth at these different positions. And that's what us as fans, we need to be looking at these guys saying, wow, this could possibly be a guy that can come in and relieve somebody or could be a potential starter. So we know what you got. Like I said, you know what you got with your first string. Let's look at the second string and see what we've got going on here. So second and third string. So I want to pass this over to you. And I know that you've gotten to go to camp. Is there anybody that kind of piqued your interest and you're like, I really want to see what they're going to do on their live bullets?
Yeah, I'll start with like the quarterback position. I think that battle with Ryan Griffin and Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to be very interesting. I think Ryan Griffin has really stepped up his game, so it's going to be interesting to see what he does with the second and third team, see who he gets to play with, and see if he can next step and being a consistent backup. Because Ryan Fitzpatrick hasn't looked good in camp. He's been up and down. Really hasn't up. Griffin has really been the better of the two. So I just want to see how he does in the game tomorrow. Trying to think of other guys. I think as far as running back position, I want to see what McNichols does and what Charles Sims does. That's going to be interesting to see how they get involved. Peyton Barber is another one. But then, receiver, that fifth receiver spot is going to be very interesting. You got a bunch of guys there fighting for just one or two spots. Trying to think, corner. Corner is going to be interesting because you don't have Brent Grimes tomorrow. You don't have Jude, who's probably out for the year now. So, guys like Maurice Fleming, that's the guy to look out for. Linebacker position. So there's a bunch of guys to look for. Again, preseason, here's what I do for preseason. You just pray no one gets hurt. That's the number one key.
Yeah.
But look for certain guys that you want to focus in on and just focus in on them the whole game. Don't look at the ball. Don't watch the ball. Just look at certain individual guys. So whether that's, a Caleb Benenoch at right tackle, focus in on him or, focus in on, tight end Antonio Auclair, the guy from Canada. So look at those guys, see what they're bringing to the table. Don't focus on the ball too much. Just look at what they're doing. Try to follow them throughout the play. So that's what I look for.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of battles out there.
Yeah, most definitely. And to me, it's going to be the safety position. It's going to be the that fifth wide receiver position for me in running back. I think these first three games are going to be huge. And I just want to, see what is Tampa going to do in the running game, while Doug Martin is suspended. And, folks, I'm definitely going to get to the live chat because there's a lot of really good questions in there, and I'll get to that momentarily. But I will say that Doug Martin is still the best running back on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers team. So it's going to be totally up to him how he runs, how he does, and where, depending on that kind of depends on where he fits in. So, as hard as he works, and I think mentally and physically, just based on what I've seen, the clips that I've seen of him, he really has a lot to prove. So watching him and then getting to see some of these rookies like Justin Evans. I want to see more from Beckwith. Beckwith is a guy I really want to see because I've already prepared my I was wrong speech for the end of the year, just in case I was wrong about him and griping about him being drafted. So I'm man enough to admit I was wrong. If I am wrong, I'll definitely end of the season. You'll see I'll have a special show where I'm actually talking about, the draft, reviewing the draft picks and how they did. So that's something to look forward to at the end of the season. But, for now, I think what Tampa's doing is great. I love the publicity they're getting. I love the love that they're getting is really exciting to me. I'm just not used to it from these networks that, like for instance, ESPN. I'd stop watching ESPN because of just how they dealt with small market teams. But it's kind of cool to see players like a Jameis Winston getting love, and you go on NFL Network and they talk a lot about it. So I'm really excited. I'm excited. It's an exciting time to be a Bucs fan.
Yeah, I was going to bring up the Doug Martin. It's going to be interesting to see how much they use him tomorrow and how much they use him throughout this preseason. How much work they're going to give him. Given that he's suspended for the first 3 games. So I think that's something to keep an eye on. See how much how many carries he gets. See how much his workload is, and kind of see who they bring in as far as the running back position, as far as that rotation. Is it Jacquizz Rodgers? Does Charles Sims get a lot of work as far as the third down back? Or is McNichols getting that bump up? So it's going to be interesting just to watch that whole position. But the most intrigue, I think, is going to be that 5th receiver spot. He's going to step up because those guys are going to get a lot of work throughout this preseason because that is a key spot. And then obviously the return battle is huge. Who's going to be our returners? It looks like tomorrow it's going to start off with Adam Humphries, and Ryan Smith is going to be the kickoff returner. So it's just going to be interesting to see who takes that next step and becomes that guy. But yeah, there's a lot of great battles: safety position, linebackers,
kicker.
Yeah, kicker is going to be huge. I wouldn't be surprised if Cutter gets conservative in the red zone and sets these guys up for some field goals, just to see how they do. So,
who's your based on everything you've read and you've seen? Who's your guy right now? Has Aguayo done enough to improve over last season, or are we seeing more of the same? Do you feel like that we require a veteran kicker to come in who's been under these certain situations and they know what's expected of them going into a game? Let's go ahead and put your headset on. You're the head coach or the GM. How are you looking at this? Just based on what you've seen right now.
Yeah. Right now, from what I've seen and heard, Aguayo has been the more consistent kicker, but I think what it's going to come down to is I think Aguayo needs to be pretty much dead on from here on out. He needs to be pretty much perfect, because if I think it's close and Nick Folk is doing okay, and so is Aguayo, I think they're going to go with Nick Folk because of his veteran experience. They can't afford having a kicker miss kicks this year.
Yeah.
You just can't have it. You got to have that dependable guy back there. And I think if it's close and Aguayo and Folk are kind of neck to neck, I think they're going to go with Folk. I think Aguayo just needs to be stand out, in my opinion, if he's going to make the team. Just because you just can't lose games due to kicking. You just can't have it.
And the purpose for drafting him was to lock down that need. Like exactly. They did with Jameis Winston. They drafted Jameis Winston, so we're not having to discuss the quarterback position anymore. You drafted Doug Martin, so you're not having to address that position anymore. That's kind of where we are. And you're right. Just me as a head coach, if I'm a head coach, Aguayo has to do a whole lot more than Nick Folk. He has to distance himself from Nick Folk and just be dead, like you mentioned, dead on. When he comes out on the field, he can't miss anything. He's got to be perfect throughout the preseason. And that's the only way I can see him making this team, because if it's me, just looking at game film, I would take my chances with a veteran who's been around this league, who's been in different situations, over a guy that you took a chance on thinking he was going to be spot on, just from here on out. And it just hasn't worked out like that. So, in some ways competition is good. You get the best of the best, but I think that's that's kind of what needed to happen last year to see where we were. But you know, we're here now, and that's what's going to happen for these next few games. Is it's going to be Arguello versus Folk, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, I was going to make a point on Beckwith. I mean, that talking about talking about we could be very wrong on that guy because he's earning a lot of praise from Mike Smith, you know, Coach Cutter. They've talked about him, kind of raving about how he's been able to heal so fast, but also, you know, just pick up this defense so quickly. He's already starting to make plays consistently. So that is going to be a guy to watch for. I'm excited to see him and Devontae Bond, just see what they do as far as on the field. And I think Beckwith is the backup Mike right now, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens at that linebacker spot. I mean, a lot of interesting players in that rotation.
So I want you to, you know, just for the listeners, give me 3 players who can easily upgrade their stock just based on, you know, going in and playing like they should.
Just going in and playing like they should. Well, I think Claire is definitely one. Trying to think who else. I would say Ryan Smith has a very big opportunity. I think he can really improve his stock. And then I would probably say safety position. I would probably say JJ Wilcox if he plays like he's been playing. I mean, he could be a guy that could steal some starting reps. So
Yeah.
I would say those 3 guys.
Yeah, that was the guy I was thinking about was Anthony Auclair. He's somebody that you keep hearing Dirk Cutter talking about him and what he can do. Another guy, you know, and when I look at the tight end position, it would be an interesting battle between him and Luke Stalker. I think they would be battling for that 3rd tight end spot. Am I correct with that one? I don't know. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say I think Stalker. If Stalker's healthy, I think he's good enough to be on this team just because of what he brings as far as a blocker. I mean, he's really good. He can be a lead fullback. He can be, you know, that extra lineman on the offensive line as far as blocking goes. So I think his spot is pretty much set. But again, if Claire steps up his game, and then also you got this kid who they've been grooming over the last couple of years, and Tevin Westbrook, who's another guy to watch for too. So, but he's very raw. He's a former defensive lineman, so it's taken him a little longer to learn the tight end spot. But he shows up every now and again, but it's just consistency for him. So that whole tight end spot is going to be interesting because you still have Alan Cross, who's a pretty good player as well. So.
Well, and I guess that kind of, you know, I'm going to stick with the offense a little bit here. I want to talk about Chris Godwin.
Yeah,
I know a lot of people are talking about Chris Godwin competing with Adam Humphries for that 3rd position, but you know, Adam Humphries has a good chemistry with Jameis Winston. I just don't see that right now. But I think with the tools that he has and his upside, you know, I could see that happening, you know, on down the line. How does a Chris Godwin fit on this team?
I think he fits. He allows, like I said in the past, he allows his offense to create mismatches, which is very important in the NFL. You got to be able to create one-on-ones and take advantage of them. And I think Chris Godwin's going to be able to play all 3 wide receiver positions, whether it's the slot, flanker, or the X position or the Y position, which is the split end. So he's going to be able to play all 3 receiver positions, which is good. He can play, you know, pretty much outside, I think, is where they're going to keep him. Sub him in for Mike Evans or sub him in for Deshaun Jackson. But I think Adam Humphries is going to be your slot guy just because he's so deadly at that spot. He's just too good in the slot. But I mean, you could see times where Chris Godwin goes in the slot and they put, Deshaun and Mike Evans on the outside. But I think he fits. I think he fits perfectly because he's going to be able to grow at his own pace. He's not going to be able to rush on the field. Same thing with OJ Howard. I think OJ and Howard and Chris Godwin are kind of in the same boat, where they're not going to be expected to do so much right away. You can let them grow into the season, get their feet wet and get comfortable as the year goes on, and then I think once you get into the second half of the season, they're going to be pretty much ready to go and be consistent playmakers.
Yeah, most definitely. And we're fortunate with, we've talked about coaching a lot, and I want to kind of go back to that again. These coaches are teachers. They're not like, hey, you need to do this, you need to do this, but they're actually going out there teaching these guys, hey, this is why you're doing this and you have to do this. So I'm really excited to see this team and see what Mike Smith, who to me, Mike Smith was the biggest off-season move, in my opinion, that the Buccaneers could have made. I think they just stabilized that defense, and they put themselves in a position to win some more games because of the consistency that they're going to have on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, guys just know where they're supposed to be. I mean, the communication is there. Guys understand their jobs. I mean, that makes a big difference. And now you have the talent in place. You have a great defensive line that should be able to get after the quarterback if they're healthy. And you have two good linebackers, and you got a decent secondary that can make plays on the ball. So it's going to be interesting to watch tomorrow, see what the first unit does. See it, especially against a pretty decent offense in the Cincinnati Bengals. They have a pretty good defense as well. See what our offensive line does against their D line. You got a Geno Atkins on one side, and then on the other side you got an AJ Green. So it's going to be interesting to see what we do against those guys, especially in the first quarter. I know it's preseason, so it's probably going to be very vanilla.
But the thing is, I know we talk about, sometimes we talk about vanilla, but what's important to keep in mind, folks, is you have to have the fundamentals. You have to be able to excel with the fundamentals. And we're not even talking about any of these other plays that they're bringing in. We're not talking about the playbook, just something very vanilla stuff you learn in Pop Warner, going up through high school, so on and so forth. Very basic plays. But if you're able to excel with this, it's going to benefit you nonetheless.
Yeah, and back to fundamentals. I mean, that's what we're going to look for tomorrow. Is clean tackling. Make consistent tackles. That's going to be important. Coverage. Not a lot of penalties. Hopefully not, but there are in preseason games just because you have so many guys rotating in and out, and new players. So. Turnovers. You don't want to see a bunch of turnovers. So just a clean game overall is what you want, but it's not going to happen just because it's preseason. You look at the games tonight. There's so many mistakes going on, just because guys are rusty.
The Bears.
Yeah, the Bears. But yeah, I mean, again, like I said, the main thing is just come out of there injury free. I mean, I've already seen a couple injuries tonight from games, so just pray for no injuries, no, costly season-ending injuries. That's what we don't want. To look away from the ball. Don't focus on the ball. Look at guys, look at certain players. Like, go into a play and just look at one guy for that play and then go on to the next guy.
Yeah. And, I'm gonna jump in here off of that right there. Last season, people were trying to go in on Lavonte David. He had a horrible season, this, that, and the other. But they weren't seeing what Lavonte was doing away from the ball. What offensive coordinators, they have to game plan for this guy because he's that good. It's not like he's just there, loitering around and, oh, it's okay, we'll get somebody on him. He's the real deal. And there were a lot of times where, because of where Lavonte David was, plays had to redirect to a different way, or plays change because of Levante David. These are intangible things that you can't really put statistics on, but he was able to do his job. So, in my opinion, I don't think Levante David had a bad season. I thought he had a good season, and especially coming in with a brand new defensive coordinator, something totally polar opposite from what he's worked with the year before. I thought he did a great job, personally.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're right on.
All right. So I'm going to take a few minutes, and we're getting close to the end of the show here. But because you guys do the live chat, and I appreciate all the comments in the live chat, I want to make sure that I get you guys shouted out here. So I'm going to go through some of these questions for you, Mike, and just let me know what you think here. And first one was from Brandon Fuller, and he was asking, "What do you think about Greg Schiano's comments?" And personally, all I had to say is Michael Bennett, and I'll let you go with the rest of it.
Yeah, I mean, ditto. I mean, I don't Greg Schiano, I could care less what that guy has to say. I think he was a joke of a football coach. He didn't understand how to lead men. It just shows he's at Ohio State and back in college, a defensive coordinator for a big time program. So yeah, they should have talented defensive linemen, but to compare them to NFL defensive linemen is stupid in my opinion. So of course he's going to say his guys are the best that he's ever coached, just because he's salty because he couldn't win in the NFL. I mean, I think it's just stupid comments by him. It makes him look even more dumb than he really is.
Yeah. I don't know if you've ever gotten to go to any USF games, but when he was at Rutgers, just watching some of his play calling at Rutgers, it was pretty painful. But I'm just going to leave that alone. So I'm going to move on here. Twinkie the King said, "I think Chris Godwin will light a fire under a wide receiver group." We touched on Chris Godwin. TB Bucs 27. Is Chris Baker going to be in with the pass rush unit, or will Air shift inside and someone else be outside?
I think they're gonna still shift Ayers inside just because they want to get an extra defensive end on the field. Right now, it looks like it'll be Ryan Russell to take the place of Jacque Smith until he comes back. So you'll have Russell, McCoy, Robert Ayers, and Noah Spence as far as your pass rushing unit. Again, Baker will still see time just from as a rotational. But Baker's impact is going to be mainly on first and second downs, and his ability to still get after the quarterback is going to help us be that much more dominant.
All right. Next question from TC Baby One. Who do you think is going to be the odd man out at running back? It may be Sims, but I hope it's Barber. Charles Sims, I don't think Charles Sims is going anywhere, me personally, just because of what he's capable of doing. Him catching the ball out of the backfield, he's capable of breaking it every time he touches the ball. Injuries, to me, the only thing that I see that's kind of been a struggle for me is the injuries, him not staying on the field, him not being on the field to help this team. So I just don't see him going anywhere. But again, who knows? But that's just kind of my observation.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the same. I think it's probably going to be Peyton Barber just because I think he's a guy that you could easily put on the practice squad. I think you can sneak him away.
Somebody's going to steal.
But again, yeah, I think it just depends on, again, injuries play a part. Who's going to step up? Is McNichols going to progress faster than expected? Is he going to become that guy that can be a third down back and kind of take that Sims role? And then you look at Jacque Rogers. I mean, is he going to be better than he was last year? So it's going to be interesting. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, Ren Dax, he was talking about Cameron Brate when he said Cameron Brate's blocking has improved, but Howard is just stonewalling guys on one-on-ones. That's really exciting to see, where Cameron Brate is another guy who's honing his craft. Wasn't known for being a blocking tight end, but he's starting to get into that role. and just to hear that he's improving. I know Ren is at these practices quite a bit, so it's really good to hear from somebody who's out there kind of watching all this, and that's something that's kind of exciting for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, yeah, we got a chance to talk with Doug, and he does a great job with Pewtercast. So, I mean, his point on Cameron Brate is right on. I think if Cameron Brate can just become a decent blocker, I mean, that's going to make our offense that much better. So, yeah, it's very, very good for him.
Yeah. This is a really interesting question. I'm going to pose this to you. Big Mar 8890 says, why do you guys think they kept Chris Conte? He's not consistent at all. I would have to say that Chris he made some plays in the back end of the season. I know that there were plays where he looked lost and out of place, but I really feel like, with his physical tools, and a safety position and coaching, I think he'll be fine. Maybe I'm wrong here, but I kept hearing his name mentioned on plays in camp. So that's something to build on, and hopefully we'll see a little bit more from him and get a better idea going into preseason.
Yeah, I think the thing with Conte is, yeah, I mean, he's not the greatest player, and he's not the worst player either. He's an average player, but the guy he understands this defense, and he knows what is expected out of him. And he made a lot of plays last year where he saved touchdowns, which you need at the safety position.
Turn them into touchdowns.
Yeah, yeah. But I think they got rid of the worst safety in Bradley McDougald, because McDougald was out of position a lot last year.
Yeah, he was a liability on a lot of plays, and there were a lot of PI plays that he got to.
Exactly. So they kind of kept the worst of the two evils, and created with Keith Tandy now taking a bigger role, and you bring in a JJ Wilcox, who I think is going to be better than people think. So, and you add a young kid in Justin Evans, who's going to need some time, but he's got a lot of potential. So, yeah, I mean, decent player.
Yeah, and the cool thing about Justin Evans, he's not forced into the lineup. He can grow and just continually get better, and it takes the pressure off of him. And I think that he can come in and do what he needs to do when his time comes. So let's see. Let me go on down here. Brendak said Wilcox is easily the most aggressive DB in camp. Could be a big surprise. He's been working in the slot as well. So another, we see that versatility again. There's that word that we keep throwing around throughout the show with some of these players that are being brought in, and just the fact that they're trying him at different positions, it's really going to help, the depth of the defense, because he's able to play in different positions as well.
Yeah, I mean, Carolina does this with their big nickel. They move Shaq Thompson into the slot. So, like I said, it's all about creating mismatches and creating advantages for your team. So if you can move a guy like Wilcox into the slot and cover tight ends, that makes you much better on defense.
Yeah. All right. Then the next question, TB Bucs 27. The only thing that concerns me is the offensive line. They need to do a better job in pass protection. I'm going to disagree with that until we see how much they've improved from the offseason to this season. So, just again, as Michael had mentioned, he's mentioned this multiple times. If you get a chance to watch some of these players that you're not really sure about, just watch them. Don't watch where the ball goes. Don't watch the play. You can rewind it if you got TiVo or whatever, but just watch these players and see what they do. See, are they holding their blocks? Are they moving? Are they making holes for the running back? Are they protecting the quarterback? Are they letting guys get through? Are they getting penalties for stupid reasons? These are different things that you can just pick a player and just watch him and not watch anybody else. And you can kind of see for yourself. And you don't have to be a seasoned veteran when you're watching this stuff. You can tell right away if this guy's doing what he's supposed to be doing or he's not. So that would be my suggestion. And you know what, folks, it makes it more fun to talk about football when you get a little bit more in depth rather than following the ball. Okay, we saw the ball going here. I didn't watch the rest of the play. I couldn't tell you what the formation was, but I saw where the ball went. That really doesn't, I don't know, it kind of takes away from what these players actually do. And by watching these players individually, you get a better appreciation for how important they are for this team.
Yeah, and you can also, I mean, if you want, you can follow Real Bucs Talk on Twitter, and we'll have the breakdowns up there for you. So, you know, that's always an option. Just want to throw that out there.
There you go, man. Problem solved.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see here. Did I touch on the Jacquizz Rodgers? Do you guys think it would be fair if the first 3 games of the regular season, Rodgers and the backups do good, but put Doug Martin in after suspension? You know, unfortunately, you know, they should know their roles, and Doug Martin is the best running back on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm sorry. You know, people can say what they want to. He let our team down or whatever you want to say. At the end of the day, Doug Martin is the best running back on this team, hands down. End of story. So, you know, you can kind of go from there. We're talking about a player that's made amends. He's serving his suspension. You know, he's worked with the team. The team's forgiven him. I mean, you can look on Hard Knocks and see Doug Martin. He's in the middle of there. You saw when they were singing and stuff, and he had the broom and he was sweeping the guy off the stage. I mean, Doug Martin is part of this team. He's a huge part of this team. You can see pictures. If you're on Twitter and you're following the Bucs, any of the Bucs, you'll see where they're talking about Doug Martin. He's a huge part of this team. So I understand where people are saying that, but at the end of the day, you want your best player on the field to win so you can win, and that's Doug Martin.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. I don't have much to add to that. I mean, like you said, he's the best running back on this team.
All right. So I know we talked about Justin Evans, and TB Bucks 27 said, I want to see Justin Evans make consistent tackles and look comfortable. Again, Justin Evans is coming off an injury, so you know, I wouldn't expect a whole lot. If you do, that's a plus. But I don't know. I personally, maybe I'll kind of defer over here to Mike. What are your thoughts?
I mean, that's going to be a guy to watch for tomorrow. I mean, he's going to get a lot of playing time tomorrow. I mean, that's going to be a guy to key in on just to see how he does in his tackling, how he's consistent in his angle pursuit, see if he can make any big plays. So, yeah, I definitely keep an eye on him. You know, all the rookies, I think, are going to get pretty much a lot of playing time just because they're backups right now. So, I mean, that's what's going to make it fun tomorrow, just to see what these guys can bring.
Yeah, most definitely. And the next question, what about penalties? Do you see this team being a more disciplined now than in the past seasons? Absolutely. I'll let you take this question. I've kind of been running my big mouth on the last few, but I'm gonna let you jump on this question right here if you want to.
Yeah, I think it's critical. I think Dirk Cutter emphasizes it, and I think they've done a good job of consistently getting that penalty number down, especially starting last year. So they have refs at the training camp practices, and they make it a big emphasis to make sure they're you know, doing the right things at all times. So, yeah, absolutely. And it's got to be, I mean, it has to be a lower number.
Yeah, most definitely.
You know, because penalties kill you.
Yeah. And you know what's interesting? The Bucs get penalties in the most inopportune times. It's not that they get a lot of penalties, it's where and when they get them that really just irk my nerves. And a lot of these penalties are drive killers, you know? So they get a penalty, and that's the end of the drive. We're punting to the other team, and we got to try again. You have to start all over from scratch. So it does make a difference, you know, kind of cutting these penalties down. And next, I'm going to apologize. The mental ward. Hey, Gino, I heard you diss the Card Stadium. Shame on you. I'm sorry, but you know, a pirate ship trumps a bird nest any day, unfortunately. So, you know, Cardinal Stadium is good when you're playing the Seahawks or somebody like that, but when it comes right down to stadium versus stadium, there's nothing like Raymond James Stadium. I'm sorry. So, but hey, I'm not gonna promise I won't knock him anymore. Because you're a avid listener. At least not until we play the Cardinals. Then it may be a different situation. But yeah, there's nothing wrong with Cardinal Stadium when they're playing the Seahawks or the Niners or whatever. But just comparing that stadium to the Bucs, Raymond James Stadium is amazing. If you've never been there, you just need to go there to understand what I'm talking about. Michael, am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. It's my favorite place. So.
All right. So let's see. Let's see here. I saw Shiano roll up to Hula Bay on a jet ski a while back. He ordered food and kept his light checking on the whole time. That doesn't surprise me. Freaking idiot. Okay, Corey Harris has a good question. Do you think the rookie free agent linebacker from Hard Knocks will make the cut? He seems to be liked a lot. Joe Dirt is my dude. Joe Dirt. Yeah, now that I don't have Evan Pamphil anymore, or I don't have Mr. Pamphil anymore, I got to go with Joe Dirt. That's my new guy. So yeah, I hope he makes the team. What are your thoughts?
I think he's got a good chance. I think definitely going to be on the practice squad. I think he'll definitely have a spot there. But again, it depends on the numbers. I mean, they only kept 5 linebackers last year. I don't know if they'll keep 6 this year. So, but I think he's got a good chance of making the practice squad at least. Definitely be a player that can develop through the system and maybe make an impact next year.
So I have to ask you this: when you're looking at the roster, how do the GMs and the head coach, how do they determine where they have the most depth at? Is it based on injuries? How often there's injuries? What do they go through? What do they go through to decide? Okay, we're going to keep this many receivers. We're going to keep this many running backs. Is there something special that that we look at?
I think it just goes based on the roster as far as strengths and weaknesses. Who's your strongest players, who's your strongest starters. Do you need to keep more at a position where you're stronger at, or do you need to keep more where you're weaker at? So it really just finding that balance. But typically you want to keep more defensive backs, just because that's a very important position. You tend to have injuries there. You can never have enough corners. The Bucs went into last year carrying 6 corners. Safeties usually have 4, maybe 5. But again, it's all about versatility too. You got to have guys that can play multiple spots. So that adds to your depth. You look at the offensive line, usually you carry 9, maybe 10, but you only dress 7 on game day because you have a guy that can play guard or tackle, or vice versa, guard, center. Same thing with defensive line. So it just really depends on, where the strengths of your team are. And let's say you have an injury at linebacker. Do you want to keep more linebackers there? So, I mean, it just depends.
Yeah, there you go. So let's see. I'm gonna go on down to the next question. I know it's late and we're gonna wrap this up here. Amazement 717. What do you guys think about the stick carrier fan thing? I'm gonna defer to you and I'll come in after you. Because I definitely have a lot to say about that as well.
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier in the show, I just think it's outstanding just to have Bucs fans, all Bucs fans, starting to get on the same page as far as getting behind this team and understanding what team we have now in place. We actually have a team we can cheer for, a head coach and a general manager that understand what needs to happen to make this team great again. And but yeah, I think it's awesome, because Raymond James needs to be a place where we can go and have fun and cheer this team on and be loud and, get on our feet and make this place a a tough place to play for opponents. That's what it's all about. But these guys are bringing fans together, and that's the main thing. Being united and cheering for the same thing. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, most definitely. And I'm right there with you, man. I hate this division stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can like the Buckaholics, you can like what the Buck, you can like the stick carriers. The thing is, wins and losses. The Bucs get better. The Bucs make Tampa Bay residents proud. Again, Tampa, regardless of where I'm at, Tampa is always going to be home to me. Always. There will never be a place that I won't have more good things to say about than Tampa, because so many good things in my life happen being in Tampa. So Tampa's always going to be home. And the Buccaneers is just another jewel to the crown right there. It just makes you proud to be a part of all this, So it doesn't matter who you're with. This whole gang mentality of my group is better than your group. You're not diehard. You are diehard. If you like this team, you like this team. That's what's important. Get in there and cheer for them. Whether they're winning or losing, that's what makes you the fan right there. So to me, I love what they've done. I like what they're continuing to do, and I hope they can sustain this for years to come, because that's what this town needs, is an organization or a group that you can say, hey, the stick carriers, we're here, we're gonna take over the stadium, and we're gonna give the Bucs that edge that they need to win the game. And that's what's important. So the stick carriers, you know what? They said, we're going to take the lead. We're going to show you guys how we do it. What they did on Saturday, and everybody was talking about this. You heard this on NFL Network. They were talking about this. They did what they needed to do. And I'm sorry, other organizations or whatever had a chance to do the same thing. They did it. And hey, get on board, embrace it, enjoy them. So, to me, I'm happy with what they did. They helped put Tampa on the map. But anyway, I know it's late, and I appreciate you hanging in there. Michael Pless, tell everybody how they can get a hold of you. We're going to roll this thing up.
Okay. Like I said earlier in the show, you can follow us at Real Bucs Talk, realbucstalk.com. I just put up a new article about, Jameis Winston learning how to be more patient within the game. Cutting down turnovers is a big thing for him to take that next step into elite status. And we're going to need him to be that if we want to go Super Bowl. So, I just put that up there. It has a video of him talking with Coach Cutter. So it's a pretty good article. Probably going to have something about, getting off to fast starts up tomorrow, hopefully. And then, tomorrow's the game. I mean, finally got a football game to watch. It's going to be awesome. Remember, just focus on certain players. Don't always watch the ball. Yeah, it's great to see where that play is going, but just focus on key guys. Watch what O.J. Howard does to a defensive end. Where he's probably taking him out, putting him on his back. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to be fun. And then we'll have on Twitter, we'll probably have the game clips either up that night, or we'll probably have it up the next day, where we break down pretty much every quarter. So we'll have all the clips of certain guys that we see and like. So we kind of do the job for you, but it's gonna be fun. I mean, can't wait. I mean, season's finally here.
Yes, sir. Yeah. And before I let you go, I just want to let you know that Mike Glennon comes in, Butt Fumble comes in, and when they leave the game, it's 10-0. Mitch Trubisky comes in, and the Chicago Bears are up 14-10. Coincidence? I think not. But anyway, I just had to throw that out there. But folks, we're all Bucs fans. There's so much good stuff out there. Real Bucs Talk, Pewter Plank, the Bucs Uncensored, all these different media outlets that you can check out. Besides having to listen to certain people on certain radio stations, and I'm not going to drop any names, but there's so much stuff out here. so many different little pieces of content that you could check out, and just give all these people a chance. You'll come to appreciate them and all the hard work they put in. What they do over here at realbucstalk.com is nothing short of amazing. And that's where I go first. I go there before I go to Buccaneers.com personally, just to check out the articles that they have, because they're talking about things that the rest of the outlets aren't talking about. So that's what, to me, is important. Things that you don't really think about, but hey, wait, well, I didn't even think about that. Let me check that out. That's kind of where they are. They're not doing the mainstream stuff, but they are talking about the Bucs and just giving you more to think about. So please give some of these other guys a chance to see what they're doing. Rendax, follow him on Twitter. The guy is a wealth of knowledge. What the Buc, old school. Just all these different people out here, all these different outlets. Check them out. Even going to Pewter Report. Pewter Report's something I still check out as well. So much stuff. We're one fan base. Let's try to start uniting and just try to get rid of some of these divisions that we're seeing. That's pretty much it for me. And before I let you go, I'm just gonna let it go. I'll speak more on it next week. But that's pretty much it for me. And Michael Pless, reach me at Super Heavyweight, and follow me. I'll follow you back. I love talking football. And please give this a like. Give me some suggestions if something you think that maybe I can work on or whatever. I'm always open to listen to it, because you guys make this fun. So thank you so much for all that, and I am out of here because I know it's late.